Check. A little green. Oh, there we go. Yay. Okay. Come on in if you want to come on in for the Together in Transition meeting. I'd love to have anybody join us who's still out in the gathering space. Come on and join in the meeting this morning. We also have our Zoom set up, so welcoming those who are on Zoom. Thank you. And again, if you're on Zoom, please type in any questions you may have, any comments as we go, and they'll make sure that they get them up here to us. I think all of you know who I am, Jennifer LeClaire, your council president. We have some updates to do today, and quite a few updates, actually. You can see the agenda up here. Tom Fraze, I'll turn it over to him to give an associate pastor call process update. And then we're going to switch gears and we're going to really talk a lot about strategic priorities. Not only what we've been able to accomplish this past year with our strategic priorities, but what we're planning to look at next year. So some ideas that came out of the staff and council retreat that we held last Monday. So just giving you a flavor of what is going on, and that way you, if you have ideas as well, you can bring them to me and to Rob and to Pastor Steve and Tom and whoever. We would love to take ideas that some of you may have after you see what we talked about during the retreat. Then I will close us in prayer and send us on our way. So with that, Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you to give us an update.
Thank you. So steps in the call process. Step 7, call committee receives profiles of pastoral candidates for confidential interviews. We had a successful interview a week or so ago. We are planning a second interview face-to-face. It looks positive. I'm trying to keep my emotions in check as the committee, but we had a very good conversation, and we're going to dive deeper in some topics we believe are important to Living Lord, and we'll go from there. So that is in October. Unfortunately, due to schedules and travel, this candidate is doing some traveling. So it's going to be mid-October, and we'll have a face-to-face conversation, going deeper in some topics we believe we really want to explore. And, offer the candidate time to interact with us so they can look at what we have to offer and who we are. So it's a short update, but as I was told in council, I think somebody jokingly said, it's the shortest update, but it's been the most informational, biggest impact. So that's about all I can share, because it's all confidential. So we'll keep it that way, but just keep us in your prayers and keep the candidate in your prayers, and we'll let our great Lord kind of lead us where we need to go. Anything? Thank you.
Again, probably one of the best updates we've had in a while. So thank you, Tom. Really appreciate that. And we are going to begin the work behind the scenes as well. So starting to work through some compensation and just get our ducks in a row so that as things proceed for the call committee, we're ready whenever they're ready. So that was exciting. Okay, so now I want you to fasten your seatbelts because we're going to take you through some stuff this morning. And I broke my first rule of presentations. This is an eye chart. There are lots of words on these charts coming up. And it's normally not the way I like to do a presentation. I like to keep it clean and crisp and easy to read. But that said, there has been so much stuff going on in the first 9 months of this year that I thought it would be great for us to take a moment and see what's happened with each one of these strategic priorities. That said, we couldn't do any of these strategic priorities without worship, without the people who volunteer to help with worship. It's what we do. So along with all of the lists and things you're going to see on the next few pages, there is an army of people, staff and volunteers, who make our mission happen, to spread the love and the word of Christ to others. So just keep that in mind. That first and foremost has to be recognized. And I wanted to make sure we consider that as we're going through then these strategic priorities. So if you remember, we have 5 strategic priorities. 3 of them are around ministries. 2 of them are kind of built around infrastructure. So the first one that we developed last year, early or late in the year to go into this year, was to implement our growing young strategies. So this is the one we've shortened, growing young, but you can see the whole priority there that we've written out. Implement those growing young strategies to involve youth, families, young adults, and then expand our youth and family outreach activities. What we have completed and what is in process, to me, has just been amazing. And I want to just highlight, I'm not going to read every single one of the bullets. You guys can do that. So I'm giving you an assignment. Make sure you read through some of this. But we really focused on how to be welcoming and inviting to visitors and new members. And we've had a few of those the last few months, which has been wonderful. We have also really focused on how can we engage our children, our youth, and our young adults. And you can see here, we did our first Easter egg hunt. We've had over 120 kids be involved in VBS. We've got the Merge kids engaged. It's such a great age group. They're 4th and 5th graders who they meet and they do some really great things, and they have a lot of fun. We've also did camps, taking the kids to the canoe base, wilderness canoe base. It's just been a great year for re-engaging our youth and our children. And we've even taken some time, Chad and Alyssa Nelson, who is on our council as the growing young at-large person, really taking some time to survey the young adults and see where we can fill their cup and where we're missing it. So that's been really great. We've also, there's a second page here. We've also spent a lot of time doing family activities and trying to plan for family activities. Trunk or treat, the new Wednesday family worship, which everybody can go to, everybody can attend midweek. Restarting the parent connection, supporting our Eagle Scouts and really making sure that we've reached out to our community as well, in knowing there's opportunities for them to be engaged as well. So that's, in a nutshell, some of the things we've completed this year so far. So we got the council and the staff together, like I said, last Monday for a retreat. And the retreat was really focused on what do we want to do in the next 12 to 18 months? What are some ideas? And we came up with a pretty good list, but I'm going to tell you right now, the list is not scrubbed. It's not prioritized. It's not, we haven't dug into the details of anything. It's kind of, what are some things that we can take these particular strategic priorities and expand on them further into the next year, year and a half? So here are some ideas that the council and the staff came up with. And like I said, if this spurs any ideas for you, please make sure you tell any of the council and Pastor Steve and the staff. So develop ways we can utilize our backyard. We've got this awesome section of grass out here that maybe there's a soccer team, a little league soccer team, 4, 5, 6-year-olds that could looking for a place to practice. So what ways can we do that? Maybe there's an after-school program we can do, and we can partner with the apartments across the street. Just some ideas. How can we utilize that area better? Get more high schools and colleges to maybe group with us to do service projects. I know there's a ton of kids at the surrounding high schools who are looking for service hours. And if we just reach out to them, they'd be happy to join in. We have an example of one, the Maryville University. There was a student group that wanted to do community outreach to help support the community. They partnered with us to mulch the prayer path. And that was actually one of the things that you'll see on the upcoming slides for our community outreach. So looking ways that we can do that, looking for ways that we can facilitate groups for young singles. And then look at ways we can do things differently. Be a little more over the top maybe with some things, or elevated and energized. Our VBS program is so energized. You walk into this room on any morning during that week, and the energy in the air is amazing, and the kids just love it. And I know Chad is doing the same thing with confirmation, and just taking examples where these kids will remember certain things. I'm going to use as example of showing how grace and water, and actually doing some water with the kids, some water activities. It just makes a difference because things stick with these kids. So how can we take things to a different level? We also want to develop a monthly family activities calendar. So not only could we, trunk or treat, but what fun family thing could we do during Advent? What's an activity that maybe a family could take home and do? And develop a calendar that there's something every month that a family could do. Kick off our brand. We're going to talk a little bit more about that with the We Build Family, Come Be a Part. We want to focus on successfully launching MOPS. So I'm going to plug it again. If you know of a mom of a young child, it doesn't have to be a preschooler. It can be a baby. It can be a first grader. But they're looking to get connected with other moms. Monday morning out here on the playground, we're doing a little kickoff informational section. So invite any of those moms that might want to participate. And then do some intergenerational activities. Do more of that. The bingo is such a huge success during our fall kickoff that was kind of fun. So what if we did a bingo day again and got to know each other and involve the children? And so just some more ideas there regarding how we could continue to implement our growing young strategies. Any questions or any ideas that you guys have other than what we've talked about on this list? Linda. Yeah, that's so Linda's comment for those of you on Zoom. We said on the previous slide that we have interviewed and surveyed some young adults and find out, the why behind why they attend, why they don't attend, and what interests them. And it came back pretty strongly, and I know Chad is around here somewhere. He can elaborate some more, or Tom could elaborate some more. I'll just say community.
I was asked to do some interviews, and we called young adults that had been through our youth program, and we asked them, where are you today? Are you with a group? Surprisingly, it was interesting to hear that there were a lot of young adults that are volunteering in ways, maybe not at church, but they're volunteering. And we also asked them, what did you like about what we did when you went through our youth program? And a lot of it was big surprise, the connections, the relationships, the fun, all the things we kind of knew, but it was validating our assumptions. the weekend retreats, the week-long retreats, cramped in a van for 8-10 hours, driving somewhere. Those were the things that they remembered quite a bit. So myself, Chad, Alyssa, we've made some calls and interviewed and just asked a lot of questions to help us, like I said, validate some of our assumptions. And we learned that, you know, for instance, one person's volunteering at YMCA on a Saturday night that just allows kids to come to the YMCA and just hang out and do sports or play games and be silly, but they're volunteering. Some of the reasons why they weren't involved is as a young 20s, just the normal things that I think the church as a whole doesn't help young adults with. I don't think we're any different, and they're out there. They're spread in different communities, and just a similar single and go to church, and it's, you know, they're kind of waiting for that next step in their life to maybe rejoin, but I have a feeling they will. So we took a lot of those types of interviews and compiled the data. I haven't seen what Chad's done with it, but I know we got a lot of responses. Hope that helps.
Yeah, and we haven't dived into the details of it yet either, but that was in the overview of exactly what Tom gave, what Chad shared with us during the retreat. So more to come, more to learn from that. Okay, our next strategic priority was to broaden and deepen our community outreach ministries by better understanding the current needs of our community and integrating with our community leaders. So when you look back over the last 9 months, some of the things that we've completed and some of the things that are also in process, we've really tried to touch our community and talk to those who are in the school district, connect in with the police department. But then we've also realized that there's people in the community that also reach out to us and we don't even know it by going to our website. And then we started looking at our website, and then we started looking at other websites. And then we realized maybe it was time for us to create more of a brand. And maybe it was time for us to jazz up the website a little bit more. So we've really focused on that face of our church out to our community through the website, through the internet. So talking through first developing our branding statement and then assembling a team to work on revamping our website and working on a brand new logo. So the logo work is still in process, and so is the website, but they're well on their way. It's close. We will have something before the end of the year, I can tell you that right now. So that's in process. And then along with all the work our caring ministries have continued to do as we've crept out of the pandemic, the blood drives, the Oasis food drives, the donations to God's Helping Hands, the quilters donations for all the work they do, all of that has continued to reach our community. And that's been something so great to see as we've inched out of the pandemic.
And I think some of the things that are critical for us to realize is that we are touching the community. Just last month, we got a request through the office from a young woman who had fallen out of a relationship and the financial problems that she was running into. And the church, through the Haven Fund, was able to help that young woman stay on her feet until she could figure out things. And she also made a statement that day to Paula down in the office that, gee, the government help was starting to run out, and she was going to end up having to go back to the food pantry. We'd had some questions over the last few months. Gee, Oasis wasn't getting many families. Well, on Saturday morning a week ago, they had 17 families come back in. Just 2 months before that, it had only been 4. So the community is starting to fall back into some of the issues that we had before. We had all this assistance come out from the federal government. So we are, in fact, at the right place now, questioning what do we need to do to help people? Because there's gonna be a lot of things, a lot of help that people will need. Right now, 80% of the United States families don't have $400 in case they have an emergency. Their washing machine breaks, the brakes on their car go out, those kinds of things. And we haven't seen that over the last 18 months because there's been so much money that the federal government's put into the economy, and that's coming to an end. So what we've been doing, what we've done in the past, we're going to be able to step up and do more now.
Okay, I'm going to switch to the next slide because the list goes on. So continued, really reaching family in our communities, like Rob was saying, things are changing, things are shifting, but inviting the community to attend our MOPS group. And the preschool, partnering with the preschool, Michelle Hyatt and the teachers have been pivotal in helping us get the word out about MOPS, but also get the word out about other things we're doing to bring those families in. Believe it or not, our preschool, the whole enrollment, one family are members of Living Lord. The rest are outside of our congregation. And so there's a group there that there's an opportunity for them to want to engage with us going into this new year. So that's been great. So reaching out to them with tighter connections through Trunk or Treat, the Easter egg hunt, VBS, and the list could go on and on. Making more connections within the community. Like I said, we've reached out to Mission St. Louis to see what's there, what do they got going on? And could we do something out here similar in St. Charles County maybe? Partnering with the Lake St. Louis Police Department on different programs. One of the things was assisting seniors who may fall victim to fraud. There's an opportunity for us there to look at and that we're talking to them about. So continuing all of that community outreach, supporting scouting, supporting the recovery group, Civil Air Patrol. There's a lot of people who like to use our facility for their community group. So that said, some of the brainstormed ideas that came up during the retreat, again, we need to scrub them and prioritize them. So all ideas, and I'd welcome yours. Look for ways that we can utilize that Haven Fund that Rob just gave an example of. Which ways can we provide more funds to those in need in our community through that fund? And then look at other ways we can use our facility, our property to help our community. So, like I just mentioned, are there other groups out there who need a place to meet? Are there groups of seniors who need a ride somewhere? Could we better utilize our bus so it's not just sitting, in the parking lot all week? Are there ways we can utilize the field out back? So there's just lots of ways if we get creative to help our community with the facility we have here. And I mentioned just next steps with some of the other community groups that are out there. Any other ideas? Yeah.
One day we were floating, we were invited up here to see the children's preschool program. Why can't we have that preschool program during the week?
That's a great question. So Connie's comment was, is there a way that we can get to see and be more engaged with the preschool? And is there a way maybe they could come during service? And I love that idea. And I think we can bring that back to Michelle and see if there is an opportunity for that to happen. I think we actually even kind of touched on it a little bit during the retreat. Sherry. Sure. That's true. So Sherry's comment, again, for those on Zoom, was that those families are engaged, a lot of them in other churches in the surrounding community as well. So it's hard to get them here on a Sunday. But Rob just said, we could videotape and show it to our congregation. We sure could. Yeah. Yeah. They're using it and we just maybe don't see it, you know? And I know one night I came for a meeting and there were some kids playing basketball. They had a basketball game going on with basketball hoop over there. So, you know, I just think that that might be a tapped area for us, for youth, especially growing young. How about we build a sand volleyball court and have a little sand volleyball league? Not that I would participate. Okay, I love it. So thank you. The great suggestions and great comments and questions as well. This is what we need. And this is why I wanted to take the time today to go through this with all of you, because it's, you know, the staff and council can only think through so much. And until we come out to all of you and ask for your thoughts and inputs to hear what you've got on your mind. So, okay. The third priority within our ministries was to expand our small group fellowship and complete 2 small book group studies. So done. We were in process, I should say, really. The second book study is going on and it will resume next week during the learning hour with Pastor Steve. And hopefully all of you have been able to grab the book and read through some of it and enjoy that discussion with him. The biggest highlight on this piece of paper to me right now was that we executed an amazing fall kickoff last week. We estimated over 300 people were in attendance. And it was fun. I mean, I had some kids who were just loving this, the face painting, the balloons, the bubbles, the obstacle course, the food. It's just been such a highlight for us. It felt so good. And we were blessed with such a beautiful day. So I just think that was a huge accomplishment for the team of volunteers. And I know Leslie and Stephanie led it. But there was a lot of help that went behind the scenes to make it all happen.
And I'd like to thank Matt Ward here. There was a lot of folks that were driving by and Matt stood up and waved at them. And they said, "Hey, is it free?" And Matt said, "Sure, come on in." So we had a lot of new faces that came to our picnic last week because Matt had the courage to wave his hand and say, "Sure, come on in." Thank you, Matt.
And then I don't know about you guys, but it sure has felt good over the last few months for our small groups to start coming back together. I know not every group's there yet, but wow, it's just been fun to see people in person again. And I'm so thankful for that. We've also been able to do a couple fun other fellowship things. We celebrated Pastor Steve's graduation with the ice cream social. We got to do an Ascension Day picnic outside and worship outside. That was phenomenal. And I know the band has been amazing in helping us do some of those things as well. So really been great to see the steps we've been able to take this year so far in this strategic priority. So what have we brainstormed in this area during the retreat? There was a lot of discussion in this area, believe it or not. The retreats that are coming up, of course, we're very excited about that, having retreats back on the calendars, both the men's and women's retreat. And then we talked about new members. You know, we just welcomed new members last week, 17 of them. How can we get them connected with what they're interested in? Are they interested in a men's Bible study on Thursday mornings? How can we connect them to that Bible study? How can we connect them and make sure that their kids are involved in trunk or treat in the beginning of October? So there's just, we've got to find a way to make sure we're connecting those new members with groups that they identify with. And then we had a lengthy discussion about, well, what about small groups? Could we expand small groups? What is a small group? What does it look like? Maybe we need to redefine it. Maybe we define it as an interest group. Maybe we have a group of people who love to go fishing, would love to meet on a Saturday morning once a month, share a devotion and a prayer, probably pray for a big catch, and then go fishing. How about that? You know, so we really spent quite a bit of time talking about how can we maybe open our minds to a different definition of what a small group looks like, and maybe attract some different people to those groups. And then the list goes on. Again, I'm not hitting every single one of these. You guys can read them, or I can provide you the list if you want to read the list in detail. But we also had a few more. Yeah. How can we facilitate starting a small group? So I do like to go fishing. How do I get a group started? Not quite sure. I've never done this before. So what are ways that we can help facilitate that? Empower people, first of all, that you can start a small group. It's okay. Whatever that small group may be. If it is a Bible study or a golfing group or a fishing group or a running group. And then just provide some training and some guidance on how to get that group started, and give some ideas on how could they incorporate their faith in the scripture within that group. So just helping facilitate that. And then lastly, we thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we actually took another survey with our congregation regarding what are their interests? What do they like to do? Do they want to learn more on theology? Do they want to study the New Testament? Is there a specific book in the Bible they want to learn? So just ways that we could maybe utilize PCO to get more information from the congregation on what do you want to do? So that was really where most of the discussion went. But are there any other ideas from this group? Okay. Well, if you think of something, or if you're interested in starting a small group, an interest group, come see Rob, myself, Pastor Steve, because we're happy to help get it going. Okay. Next, strategic priorities. The last two we grouped as infrastructure strategic priorities. So this one here, it's actually the fourth one, but it's the first infrastructure priority, was determine our staffing needs through a gap analysis and develop staffing alternatives to further enhance communication and digital capabilities. So this one, again, we've spent quite a bit of time, I feel like, especially the executive team, as we've looked through ways that we need to look at our staffing levels here at the church. Of course, the call, associate pastor call, is our biggest priority. It would be great to get our associate in place by the end of the year, if possible. We'll see. We'll see where God has a plan for us there. But that's been the biggest priority. But then we've also realized through this pandemic that we have a pretty large need for a digital communications, a media arts type person who's gifted in that area. So much now is on the web, is on the internet, is on social media. And we've been very fortunate to have staff and volunteers who have been very helpful in making this all happen for us over the last year. But it's a lot. It's a lot. And it would sure be nice to have someone who's got that background and that talent and that skill set to be able to help us. So we've gone out and connected with local colleges and universities to ask for an intern in this area. It's been a little quiet. We haven't gotten a whole lot of response yet, but kids are just getting back into the swing of their fall activities. So we're hopeful that maybe we can get an intern in this area. We'll keep working on it. But you can see here, we just really have worked on trying to make sure we're staffed appropriately, because we've got a lot going on, as you can see through the last few pages. Another thing we have done is we will be submitting for a seminary intern. Our paperwork is due in January, and hopefully we could get an intern from the seminary to join us in the summer and be a church that can facilitate that and grow that.
And one of the things that we found, part of the survey process is we looked at, why do people enter the seminary? Why do people want to serve God? A lot of that comes from their experiences by going to a camp. And one thing that we passed over this morning is that we've looked at, we want to help Leadership Lab in Illinois, and we want to support them more than we've supported in the past, possibly through scholarships, et cetera. And we also want to help by providing a camp experience for our young people. So the pastor's going to do a confirmation camp, and we're looking at summer camps. Fortunately, there's some close ones up just across the Iowa border, I'm told. And we're going to start doing that. One of our new council members this year is Alyssa Nelson, young woman that you'll hear from in a couple of weeks. But she was influenced by Leadership Lab and what it did to awaken her faith. And I wanted to let you know this morning that we've done good things in the past. And because we've done those, we're now starting to get more ideas about how we can do even bigger things in the future.
Okay, and then we still have another list around this one, the committees. We have started committees here and grown committees, and the work that these committees have done has just been amazing. The nominating committee, the personnel committee, but the finance and stewardship committee, the endowment committee. I mean, it's just been amazing to see groups of people step up and do a lion's share of some of the behind the scenes work. So we want to continue that, but that's been something that's been really great as we've worked through things this year. And then the bottom, well, I'll mention Holly. We brought Holly Strothkamp on as our full-time children's ministry director, and the kids love her. And if you haven't met her, she is awesome. She is creative. She is fun. She's just such a breath of fresh air. So introduce yourself to her because she's just so great. And then lastly, just the last few here is just, again, more infrastructure type work around staffing and communication, utilizing PCO more to make sure that we're communicating and we're connecting with each other on what's going on within groups. The personnel committees working on the updating the employee handbook, the personnel handbook, and then just keeping our job descriptions up to date. So a lot of stuff behind the scenes, again, regarding infrastructure that we've executed this year. So what did we brainstorm during the discussion at the retreat? Well, of course, getting our associate hired and onboarded. And we mentioned that several times now this morning. Definitely something we need to execute the next 12 to 18 months. But then I want to highlight just developing our staff, letting them dream and empowering them to try new things, but at the same time, not overwhelming them. They do a lot. And I just want to make sure that, we give them that ability to try new stuff, but then at the same time, we got a major list of things we'd love to see happen in the next 12 to 18 months. Try not to overwhelm them. So are we staffed appropriately? Getting back to that gap analysis, which brings me to another bullet up there. We've got volunteers who you wouldn't believe the hours they put in here at Living Lord. Financial volunteers, so our treasurer, our financial secretary, our building maintenance. There's a couple gentlemen who spend hours here doing basic building maintenance for us to keep this building working. And then, of course, our music leadership. Lots of hours, lots of volunteer work by the band and the choir. And as we continue to build and hopefully grow, we may need to look at hiring some extra help to make some of this work happen and provide a little bit of relief for those people who are volunteering their time and their talent. So that's something we're thinking about now as we go into next year's spend planning, just to keep that in mind. And then continuing to grow the next generation of leaders on the council, leaders on our committees. We welcome anyone who'd like to volunteer. I really think the council is a pretty cool place to be right now. So we'd really like to start fostering more of our growth in the leadership, because I'm eventually going to be vice president next year and then roll off. So anyway, if you know of someone or you yourself are interested in being a part of those committees and on the council, we'd love to have you. All right, the last one. Our last strategic priority was to continue to build our culture of generosity and develop a strategic facility/debt reduction plan. So some of the work we've had done this year was really, I hate to say it, but it's been a little reactive versus proactive from a facility standpoint. We've really had to, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Let me back up. Let's start with, first of all, we've worked hard at communicating with everybody some of the mission moments, some of where has our contributions to this church gone? What are some of the ministries that have been a part of Living Lord over the last year? So creating those mission moment videos. Again, I mentioned it, continuously looking for people who'd like to volunteer to help with worship and children and youth ministries. We've created a year-round stewardship calendar. So not thinking of stewardship as fund drives during October and November. No, stewardship as in giving time and your talent and the gifts God has given you year-round to the church. So really working on that year-round look at giving. And we've started participating now in the Seasons of Giving program. We've been able to establish the endowment fund and the endowment committee. So that's been great. A lot of great work done by Lori Ray and the team. We're getting there. It's exciting to see it happen. And then just ways to online give and establishing a better routine around the spend plan that's based on data and understanding where the money is going and making sure that we're all thinking about the next year and ways we could expand our giving and building that solid spend plan. Some of the other things that we've done is develop, again, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but we've really worked hard at making sure we're reaching everybody where they are during the pandemic. Whether it's you want to stay home and watch online services, be here in person, wherever you are, but we've really worked hard at establishing the way to do that. And then, as I said, I mentioned the property and the landscape improvements. We've done a lot of improvements this year in the property, thanks to Matt and the team there. Comment?
Yeah, when it comes to our property, over the last 20 years, we haven't developed the programs that we needed to stay in front of what happens to buildings. Things like painting, things like landscape that outgrows its lifespan and starts to die and we need to replace. And again, I want to give kudos to Matt Ward because he's come up with a list and what we have to do over the next 4 or 5 years in order to stay ahead of the building and the facility, because we want to make our building comfortable and we also want to keep it usable, not only for us, but for the groups like the Alcoholics Anonymous group that meets here. Those folks need help and we provided help, but if the paint's coming off the wall and the chairs wobble, not much of a good, comfortable place for folks. So thank goodness we've had an engineer get in front of it. And so you'll see more of that come out as we continue to move ahead.
That's why I went ahead and flipped the chart here. So what we talked about during the retreat was, of course, we're executing the Seasons of Giving program. We're in that now. We just need to continue working on that. But reviewing this facility maintenance. We do have a building that's 20 years old and it's starting to show its age. And so now making sure we take a look at where do we need to be replacing things, carpet, furniture, AC and furnaces, plumbing issues. I mean, it starts to show its age. So putting that 5-year plan together and really trying to forecast the needs of what are we going to need to do to our facility in the future. We do need to do a little facilities clean out too. There's some closets that we probably need to pick through and maybe purge some things that we just don't use anymore. and create more storage space and actually space to do things like maybe creating a digital studio somewhere that we can easily do videos, because that is really where we'll continue utilizing those videos, those video announcements and mission moment videos. And then just looking at the big picture for our facility, and then again, the debt reduction. So really beginning to work on that and putting solid plans together for the next few years. And then continuing to grow our endowment fund, because that will only help us in meeting the mission for where God wants us to go in the future. So any more ideas on either the staffing or the creating a culture of generosity that this might have spurred in any of you? Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you giving me the time to take you through this today. I know it's probably been a little longer of a Together in Transition than we've had in the past, but I felt like it was important that we're at a time now where we do need to start looking at the next 12 to 18 months. I do want to make sure I'm getting everybody's input on that. And as well as to say thank you for all those things that were completed on those charts that are in process. It wouldn't have happened without everyone in this congregation being involved. So I thank you. And please, again, send your ideas my way. So with that, I am going to go ahead and close us in prayer. Heavenly Father, we give you praise for this beautiful day and for bringing us together to talk about where you are leading us. We thank you for bringing an associate pastor candidate to us. We ask you for continued discernment for our call committee as they work through the call process. We pray for the candidate that they will also have discernment as they make this decision in their life. We thank you also for the gifts of our staff, our council, our committee leaders, our volunteers, and members of this congregation. It is the gifts these people bring of their time and talents that make it possible for us to spread your love and do your mission in the world. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you all for attending. Appreciate it.